Hey guys, it's been a minute since I've done a video like this, but anyway, here I am. I'm back with more FPV stuff, and I've actually teased this video a little bit on my FPV Instagram account. I have an Instagram account just for my FPV stuff, so if you want to follow that, it's right here. I just made it a little while ago. Go check that out. Anyway, what I'm doing in this video is I'm kind of showing you guys the results of my prop testing that I did recently. So for my end of the year statistics project, I had to do it to basically come up with my own project to do. And so I decided to test many different mini quad props, mainly for freestyle, because it's mainly what I do. And despite nobody else in the class really knowing what I was doing besides my partner and I tested out 5 different propellers, and I ran them for 5 packs each, which wasn't a lot, but when you're testing 5 different propellers and you have 5 runs to do on each one, and I had a limited amount of time to complete this data, that was the amount of data that I got, and it was enough to get an idea of the like the numbers, like the current draw, and milliamp hours per second, which is really what I calculated in the end, was milliamp hours per second draw of each propeller on average with my style of flying and my setup. So before I go through the results and tell you which propellers I tested, I figured I'd show you the quad that I actually tested all these on. So this is my floss style build that I've been flying since the floss style came out. I ordered it pretty much as soon as I could get my hands on one, and I've been flying for maybe about a month now with this dude. So I have the regular Rotorite hype trains on here. So these are the 2450 kV, I believe these are, yeah? 2450 kV, yeah. And then I have 30 amp ESCs. I have an F4 board. It's a Maytech F4 board with a current sensor and everything like that. And then a Unify and a Micro Eagle. And I run a GoPro for all these tests, and I also ran a 1300 milliamp hour 4S pack, standard. It was a China Hobby Line 100C pack that I ran for all the tests. I did actually have a Tattoo 75C that I ran for a few, just because I only have 4 packs right now. I really need to buy more packs, but anyway, that's beside the point. But I tried to keep my testing as consistent as possible, and the only variable I really changed was the propellers that I tested. So, the propellers that I tested, I actually have all the different ones in this bag right here. And these aren't race props, because I don't race, so that wasn't what I was testing. I mainly tested the popular freestyle props, and then the one other that I was just kind of interested in trying. So, I tested the 3 different V1S. I tried the 4.3 V1S, the 4.5 V1S, the 4.8 V1S, and then I also tested the T5040C Cyclones. So these are the 4-pitch freestyle oriented Cyclones. And then this is Emax's Avan Flow. It's their freestyle oriented prop, which is pretty steep pitch. This is out of focus, but it's a pretty steep pitch propeller, and that's why I wanted to see. They say it's a 4.3 pitch, but to me it feels way more than that. So these are the 4 propellers that I tested. So actually, let me get into the numbers real quick, and I can show you. And then in a minute, I'll kind of give my personal feelings about how I felt each of these props performed in the air in terms of flight feel and stuff like that. I'm actually looking off of the spreadsheet that I made. If you guys want to see this spreadsheet with all the data in it, I'll have it linked below. It'll be public, so you guys can look at this. There's a few holes in the data here and there. I didn't quite get the max amp draw for all of the Avan runs, because I had to disarm at some points, and it didn't save when you disarmed, and then I didn't do a max. Anyway, so some of the data points are kind of missing, but I have almost all of the time and milliamp hour used ratings. So the way I did this was I actually flew each prop for 1,000 milliamp hours on my OSD. So when I reached around 1,000 milliamp hours, obviously it's hard to land exactly at 1,000, but I did as best as I could. So I flew for about 1,000 milliamp hours on each, and then I recorded the flight time, and I converted that into seconds. And then I did milliamp hours over the seconds, so I divided those out, and I got an average for all 5 flights that I did for each propeller, and that gave me an average milliamp hours per second of each propeller. If that makes any sense. I don't know, I might have just explained that way too fast. But you guys can look in the doc and or the sheet and kind of figure it out. So we'll start off with the 4.3. So this is a really popular prop for a lot of people for freestyle. I know Mr. Steele runs it. I know a lot of other people run it. And it's because it gives the best battery life out of all of them that I tested. So the average flight time I got for all of these was 266 seconds. That's what I have in the sheet. I don't have that in minutes to seconds, but I can put it right here and I'll convert it. And this was the longest average out of all of the props, which would make sense because it has the least pitch. And so our average milliamp hours per second was 3.78 milliamp hours per second, which was the lowest. So that means that I was getting well over 4 to 4.5 minutes of flight time for each flight on this propeller. It doesn't have a lot of punch, it doesn't have a lot of top end, but it feels really responsive, and I see why somebody like Steel flies it, because it has a really snappy feeling, but it doesn't feel as locked in as some of the other V1S do, in my opinion at least. So this prop was probably my second choice in terms of, at the end of the day, it gave the best battery life, but I felt like it traded off some of the locked in feeling. It felt a little bit looser, but it also felt more like I had more instant control over the quad. It's kind of hard to explain unless you fly them and compare, but it was probably my second choice for best propeller. Next one up that I tested, the 4.5 V1S was my favorite propeller, and it just used a little bit more battery than the 4.3. The V1S style prop in particular is really an efficient propeller, and the 4.5 specifically I really like the feel. It probably felt the most locked in out of all of them to me, while keeping the amp draw down. So it used just a little bit more power per second. It used 3.9 milliamp hours per second, so just a little bit more. I'll have the graph also. I'll put it right here. So that was just a little bit more than the 4.3 V1S, and the average flight time was 252 seconds per flight of the 5 flights that I did. And so I'll convert that to minutes and seconds right here. I probably should have had it in here, but sorry about that, guys. Then the next one I tested was the 4.8, and this prop came out a while ago, and then people said that this is too steep of pitch, so then they came out with the 4.5. So I tested the 4.8, and I got just a little bit less average flight time than the 4.3. I was on the throttle less, just like cruising around, and I could just blip the throttle if I wanted to get like a punch or get over something real quick, and I felt like I wasn't using as much throttle just cruising around, which would it's kind of weird though, because like you'd think that it would even draw more amps at lower throttle. The feel was pretty comparable to the 4.5s, but I thought the 4.5s just felt a little bit better. And the average amp draw on these was a little bit higher at 3.96 milliamp hours per second. So just a little bit above the 3.91 milliamp hours per second of the 4.5. Pretty comparable. I would say these two propellers, in terms of numbers, are pretty close. I just think the 4.5 feels better. moving on to the T5040C. So this was the Cyclone that I tested. This is, people actually really do like this prop. This is the 4-pitch non-racing Cyclones, because the rest of the Cyclones are kind of more higher pitch, tailored towards racing, at least what I felt like. I know some people use them for freestyle, and there's no like racing or freestyle propellers. It's kind of, they're interchangeable. But this one gave pretty good flight times too, with an average flight time of 260 seconds, which again, I'll put right here what that is in minutes and seconds. And it only used 3.87 milliamp hours per second. So the flight time on this was pretty good too, and the milliamp hours was pretty good too. My only problem with it was, it wasn't really a problem. It just didn't feel, it just felt like it didn't feel amazing to me. It didn't have, like, it's durable, but it's not the most durable. And I don't know. I guess there's just nothing that stands out to me about this propeller. It feels fine. It works. I'm not unhappy flying it. But it's just I don't know. That's just my opinion. Obviously, some people might have a different opinion on it, but that was just what I thought about it. And then the last one, which I knew was going to have this result, was the Emax Avan Flow. And boy, this thing says it's a 4.5 pitch, but it used a lot more power than the rest of these propellers at 4.3 milliamp hours per second, with an average flight time of 237 seconds. So minutes and seconds is right here. And I could feel this prop. Some people have said that, like Kebab FPV, when he did a review of this prop, he said it feels very linear, and I would agree. Like some props, like maybe the V1S, the throttle response curve is a little bit like flatter, you know. As you get to the higher throttle, not a lot changes, and the low throttle is a little bit more, I guess to say, easier to it's like an S curve almost in terms of throttle response. This is very linear, so it felt like if you give it more throttle, you get that much more thrust. It's not like a curve at all. It's very linear. And the top end, wow, it had a lot of pop. I think I tested this one after the V1S, and I'd just go to punch over something, and I'd be way higher than I meant to be. I'd be like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm way up here. Like I was trying to pop over a tree or something like that, and I would just do blip full throttle, and I'd be like way over the top of the tree. So it has a lot of punch if that's what you're going for. And if you want speed, so if you're like, if I go to like chase a car, if I'm trying to chase something going really fast, or I'm trying to get somewhere fast, I might actually use this propeller, but it's gonna hurt your flight time. So I don't know, once again, this prop was just like to me. It has a different feeling. The throttle response feels a lot more linear than the other ones that I've tested. Some people might like that. I thought it felt kind of weird, but maybe that's because I'm not used to it. But that was my opinion of the prop. Sorry, my camera's blinking. I don't know what that means. One sec. Yeah, so that was my opinion. Those were the results of all these props. So if it were up to me, I think I would order. I'm gonna order bulk of these props. I'm probably gonna order bulk of the 4.5 because they feel the best to me and they don't use the most power. Actually, they use the second least amount of power, and they do have more top end than the 4.3. You know, you can really blip the throttle if you want. And I guess the number one thing they feel to me is like more locked in, and I like that locked in kind of feel while you still have that freedom, like that fast response as well as the locked in feel. But what do you guys think? I want to know if you guys fly any of these props that I tested, and why you like which one you like or why you don't like some of them. So yeah, thanks for watching, and happy flying, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, bye.